Good morning, everyone. Thank you very much for joining the fifth White Collar Crime workshop at the Embassy Japan in Washington, D.C. And before going to the opening remarks, so I'd like to say thank you to the Japanese Embassy, especially for Koide-san, so coordinating this workshop very well. Thank you so much. And this is the fifth time of our workshop since 2019, where we started to create a platform, so where we can discuss from academic perspective and practice perspective and authorities perspective at the same time. And so I hope this workshop could be a good opportunity for everyone to learn from different perspectives regarding the cutting-edge topics, so in the field of compliance, governance, and white collar crime. And yeah, then let's go to the opening remarks. So I'd like to introduce Mr. Glenn Leon, who is our Chief Fraud Section Criminal Division of the United States Department of Justice. Okay, yeah, thank you.
Morning. Thank you very much, Katie, for this kind introduction and this invitation to speak for a few minutes here today. It really is great to be here. And also thank you very much to Shinsu University for the kind invitation to speak at the fifth White Collar Crime Workshop here. I really appreciate it. And it is an honor to be representing the criminal division of the DOJ. And I look forward to speaking with many of you. And I also look forward to learning. I participate, this is what I do every day, but I still learn every time I come and participate and hear from such esteemed people. And I know that the lineup we have today really does include some of the foremost experts in the world in the areas of corporate enforcement, corporate compliance. So I'm excited about not only participating, but also listening and learning during today's events. The prosecution of corporate crime remains a high priority for the department, and we continue to focus on holding both individuals and companies accountable for their criminal conduct. The department has been and continues to be committed to strengthening and enhancing our capabilities in this area. And this commitment starts at the top of the criminal division. And I do have the privilege to work for Nicole Argentieri, who is the recently appointed acting Criminal Division Assistant Attorney General within the Criminal Division. Acting AAG Argentieri has a wealth of experience in the white-collar arena, having served as an AUSA, an Assistant United States Attorney in the Eastern District of New York for over 10 years. She also served as the Principal AAG for the past year, and before that, she was a partner, white-collar partner in a multinational law firm focusing on white-collar matters. The part of the department that I have the privilege of leading is the criminal fraud section, as Kay said. The criminal fraud section holds as its top priority the prosecution of white-collar and corporate crime. We focus on holding accountable both individual wrongdoers who engage in fraudulent activity, as well as the corporations that benefit from their crimes. And I'm going to just start by giving two brief examples, recent examples of prosecutions my team handled. The first happened resolved in April of this year. Prosecutors in the fraud section secured a guilty plea from Sterling Bancorp Incorporated for making materially false statements in its public offering and other public securities filings about its marquee lending program that, unbeknownst to the public, was rife with fraud. In keeping with our commitment to protecting financial markets and the investors who rely on the fair functioning of these markets, Sterling was required to pay more than $27 million in restitution to non-insider victim shareholders. And in keeping with a key priority of the department, 3 individuals who were responsible for this scheme and for perpetrating this fraud were also charged and have pled guilty. The other example I want to share happened back last December, a little less than a year ago. This is a case handled by the FCPA unit of the fraud section in conjunction with the Southern District of Florida, Southern District, Florida U.S. Attorney's Office. In that case, a federal jury convicted former National Treasurer of Venezuela, Claudia Diaz, and her husband, Adrian Velasquez, for their roles in a multi-billion-dollar currency exchange, bribery, and money laundering scheme. Diaz and Velasquez accepted over $100 million in bribes in order to obtain access to purchase bonds from the Venezuela National Treasury at a favorable exchange rate. This resulted in hundreds of millions of dollars of profit for them. The conspiracy was an interesting set of facts. It involved bulk cash hidden in cardboard boxes, offshore shell companies, Swiss bank accounts, international wire transfers, and all of this was used to purchase private jets and yachts, and actually also fund a high-end fashion line that Diaz and Velasquez started themselves in southern Florida. This trial in particular, although there are others, underscores one of the department's and the fraud section's top priorities and important priorities, making sure that we hold individual wrongdoers, not just corporations, but also the individual wrongdoers accountable for the crimes that they commit. Last year, 2022, the fraud section took over 50 cases to trial, which was a record for us. We tried more cases last year than we did any other year, and this year, 2023, we are on track to exceed that number. So the prosecution of individuals remains a top priority, and it is something we are doing with the settlements we reach, the plea agreements we reach, and the trials that we will take to jury. So to be clear, combating white-collar crime requires continued effort, innovation, and partnership at all levels. The schemes we investigate are getting more complex, not less complex. The attempts at undermining our financial markets and engaging in international corruption and healthcare fraud are getting more brazen, not less brazen. And it is for this reason that the department and the criminal division have been even more proactive with our policies, our initiatives, and our enforcement efforts. So let me give a couple of examples. One example is data analytics. We hear a lot about it. We're going to hear more about it today, and it's something that I've thought about a lot when I was, before I rejoined the department as well as now, data analytics. Data analytics is a powerful tool that we first developed, the fraud section first developed through our work investigating and prosecuting healthcare fraud, and specifically in the legal healthcare fraud with legal prescription of opioids. But then we expanded it to other areas to find fraud in other areas in the FCPA context as well as security and commodities fraud context. Data analytics now plays an increasingly important role in our work throughout the entire fraud section. The work we are doing is showing that there are significant indicators of fraud within the entire white-collar community. We're doing that not just to catch fraud, detect fraud, and see flags, but also to make our cases more efficient. So to be clear, data analytics is now helping us identify and respond quickly to not only emergent schemes, but also doing them more quickly and making sure that those schemes are prosecuted appropriately. Another important area of focus is the department's commitment to promoting consistency, transparency, and uniformity in the department's corporate crime policies. This benefits not only the department, but also makes clear to the public and the defense bar and corporations what our standards and expectations are. This is an important priority as well. Indeed, the criminal division is a leader in ensuring fairness, consistency, and transparency in white-collar enforcement through the creation of policies and guidance. Consistent with this, the department has issued new guidance and new policies just this year. And I'll just give a quick outline of some of those policies, and again, we'll go deeper on them later today. Earlier this year, the criminal division announced the first substantive changes in 5 years to the criminal division's corporate enforcement and voluntary self-disclosure policy. It's also known as the CEP. The CEP sets forth specific benefits for companies that voluntarily self-disclose misconduct, fully cooperate within our investigations, and timely and appropriately remediate misconduct. I know that other panelists are going to talk about this policy in greater depth, but I do later today. But I do want to at least touch on one highlight of that policy. These changes now allow prosecutors to make even finer distinctions between companies that do the right thing, cooperate and remediate, and those that fall short. Under our previous CEP, the maximum credit available to companies that did not voluntarily self-disclose that did not voluntarily self-disclose, but that did fully remediate and that did timely and appropriately remediate, It fully cooperated, it also did appropriately and fully and timely remediate, was a 25% reduction from the low end of the applicable fine range. Now that's doubled. Now the recent revisions increased that cap to 50%. Companies that are proactive in their cooperation and remedial efforts can now get much more credit, up to double for doing so. In addition, earlier this year, the Criminal Division announced the Clawbacks pilot program. I think many of you are probably familiar with that. Under this pilot program, every corporate resolution involving the Criminal Division going forward, everyone will now require that the resolving company include compliance promoting criteria in its compensation and bonus systems. And we appreciate that relevant labor law, employment laws, and other laws across the world vary, and we'll talk about that in more some of the panels. But again, the important thing is that the pilot program now requires that in every corporate resolution. The second part of the pilot program provides clear and predictable monetary incentives for companies that elect to claw back or withhold compensation paid or otherwise due to individual wrongdoers. This applies to employees who engaged in suspected wrongdoing in connection with the conduct under investigation or had supervisory authority over those who engaged in the misconduct and knew of or were willfully blind to the misconduct. Indeed, companies will be able to receive a reduced criminal penalty when they attempt in good faith to claw back or withhold compensation, even if their good faith efforts are unsuccessful. And finally, and just recently, and many of you may know that, probably do know this just came out, the Deputy Attorney General, Lisa Monaco, recently announced the department-wide MMA safe harbor policy. This will also be a topic that will be discussed later today. This policy creates an incentive for acquiring companies to come forward to report misconduct uncovered during M&A due diligence. This is now, companies who do this are given a presumption of a declination for those companies that disclose misconduct by an acquired business within 6 months of closing an acquisition. The acquiring company will also need to fully remediate within a year to qualify for a declination. These time frames, as the DAG noted, Lisa Monaco noted, are baselines. They are subject to a reasonableness analysis because we realize and appreciate that every deal is different, every company is different, and every M&A transaction requires its own analysis. The through line for each of these policy changes is the following. First, to provide even greater transparency to the corporate community, the white-collar community, and the defense bar as to what our expectations are. Secondly, to continue to promote and incentivize companies to have effective compliance programs. And finally, when there is an investigation, to fully cooperate, encourage companies to fully cooperate with our investigations. There is one more area of focus that should be mentioned, especially at a conference such as this, and that is the importance of international cooperation. Indeed, my boss, Nicole, acknowledged this very point during a recent speech she gave just two weeks ago in London. Our recent cases, our track record shows that we will regularly work with many law enforcement partners to not just FCPA matters, but all types of fraud around the world. The full spectrum of our investigations. And our footprint of successful partnerships continues to grow. In recent years, we've worked with enforcement colleagues around the globe, including Brazil, Malaysia, Switzerland, Ecuador, France, South Africa, Colombia, the Netherlands, Singapore, and the UK, among others, and that's not a complete list. We forge these relationships not only by cooperating on active and ongoing investigations and cases, but we also do so through our partnership with international organizations such as the OECD's Working Group on Bribery, where prosecutors on my team regularly interact with prosecutors and law enforcement partners around the world. To be clear, the focus on international cooperation is not only going to continue, but it's going to be a particular area of focus for my team going forward. This is something we are planning to double down on and actively expand in the year and years to come. So these are policies and initiatives and the words, but they're not just words. They actually are producing results. I just want to offer a couple of quick examples before I conclude. Last December, my team announced the department's first coordinated resolution with authorities in South Africa. We've never done a case with South Africa. Last December, we resolved a case with ABB Limited. That company agreed to pay over $300 million for bribing a high-ranking official at South Africa's state-owned energy company to corruptly obtain confidential information to help it win lucrative contracts. In August of this year, just a couple of months ago, my team announced the first ever coordinated resolution with the Colombian authorities in a foreign bribery case. Corpi Colombiana, a Colombian financial services institution, agreed to pay over $80 million for participating in a scheme to pay millions of dollars in bribes to high-ranking government officials in Colombia. A couple of other things that are of note there. Corpi Colombiana was the first case announced under this new CEP, under the new corporate enforcement policy. And in that case, the company was awarded a 30% reduction to recognize its significant cooperation and remedial efforts. In addition, this resolution also imposed obligations to incorporate compliance-related criteria in its compensation structures as required under the new clawbacks pilot program. And finally, in September, my office, just last month, my office entered into a non-prosecution agreement with Albemarle, which is a publicly traded chemicals manufacturing company in North Carolina. And that case settled with FCPA violations that Albemarle committed to pay bribes to government officials to obtain and retain business with its state-owned oil refineries in Venezuela, Indonesia, and India. Albemarle, like Corpi Colombiana, agreed to implement compliance-related criteria in its compensation structures. And also, in addition, in this case, we awarded the first ever penalty reduction under the clawbacks pilot program because Albemarle withheld bonuses totaling over $763,000 during the course of its investigation from employees who fell within the policy scope. Because Albemarle proactively implemented procedures to freeze future bonuses for those suspected of misconduct, they were able to withhold compensation rather than have to claw it back. And we recognized that, and we reduced the penalty because of that. They were therefore rewarded with a reduction in their criminal monetary penalty equal to the amount of the bonuses that were withheld. So I can assure you that we in the criminal division and in the fraud section are not slowing down. We're very busy. We're going to keep being busy this year and well into the years ahead. And we're going to do much more when it comes before the end of the year. There will be further announcements, not today, but in the coming weeks and months ahead. And there will be additional corporate resolutions that you'll see, and that will give further information to the corporate community and the white collar bar regarding where we're going with our policies and applying them. My team really does work tirelessly with law enforcement partners around the world. We'll continue to do that. We're going to continue to try to do that in a way that is fair, transparent, and consistent. Thank you very much for the time today. I really appreciate the invitation. Thank you everyone for coming, and I look forward to learning a lot from the group. Thank you very much, guys.
Thank you very much for Mr. Randio providing a really good summary of recent government policy regarding the enforcement of corporate crime, and especially touching the runway disclosure and clawback, which are the main topics for session 1, and giving some examples of cases we're very, very interested in. So for welcome speech, so I'd like to invite Mr. Motosada Matano, so the political minister of Embassy of Japan in the United States of America.
Good morning, everyone. My name is, first of all, welcome to the embassy and this historic building before the war, so I hope you can also enjoy some part of this beautiful building. And my name is Motosada Matano. I'm political minister at the Embassy of Japan, and our department, political department, is which Mr. Koide belongs to, but the political department being charged doesn't mean that you have to make the discussions political. As we know that people living in this town is very good at making everything political. But I hope you'll have a meaningful discussion today. This year is the fifth white-collar crime workshop co-hosted by the Embassy of Japan and also Shinshu University. It's so nice to see you again, Kami-sensei. And I'm very happy that it not only marks the second year in a row that we've been able to host this in person, but also that we have even more participants here today this year. There will be 4 very interesting roundtable sessions today, and as you can see from the variety of their themes, the field of white-collar crime is wide-ranging and involves a multitude of experts, including many of the people in this room today. In fact, what makes the workshop such a unique and valuable opportunity is that it brings together a range of experts from across the field. Regrettably, white-collar crime is a challenge that we continue to face in Japan as well, as things are keeping busy alongside here in this country, and one that garners large amount of public attention. For example, in a recent case, a well-known Japanese used car dealer company, like our CarMax here, with a company with a very unique, well-known jingle, is reported to have intentionally damaged its customers' automobiles routinely and all over the country in order to pad the bills submitted to insurance companies. It has not reached criminal punishment yet, but it has drawn a huge public attention. Also, the bid rigging case regarding the Tokyo Olympics and Paralympics management work and the bribery case on its sponsorship contract are still fresh in many people's mind in Japan. As the Olympics was such a great success, despite the COVID was at its peak, it was so disappointing for us that the games had to become somewhat bitter and tainted memories for us because of these crimes. These cases highlight how white-collar crime is often directly and deeply related to people's lives, and they highlight how essential the public-private partnership is to tackle them. I'd like to introduce an important update regarding the Japanese white-collar crime legislation. During the 2023 Ordinary Diet Session of Parliament, the Unfair Competition Prevention Act was amended to strengthen regulations against cases of foreign bribery. The amendment has drawn much attention from company stakeholders, both domestically and internationally. Specifically, the Act raised the maximum punishment for both natural and legal persons to the highest standards among other Japanese laws pertaining to white-collar crime. Also, it created Japanese jurisdiction over cases in which a foreign worker of a Japan-based company commits bribery overseas. It goes without saying that the prevention of bribery is one of the most important issues for companies operating overseas. And the OECD Convention of Combating Bribery of Foreign Public Officials in International Business Transactions, which became effective in 1999, is the most important international treaty for combating it. As a member of the convention, Japan will continue to actively work on preventing foreign bribery with due regard to the purpose of the said amendment. The themes of today's roundtable sessions include white-collar enforcement trends and investigation using data and technology. In order to successfully prevent white-collar crime, it is essential to secure the effective enforcement against each offense, both institutionally and operationally. However, along with the progress of data technology and following the complications of social and economic activities, law enforcement has also been forced to change its methods it uses to detect offenses and the ways it obtains evidence. Regarding this, I'd like to note that the U.S. actively encourages offending companies to voluntarily disclose their wrongdoing, and that the U.S. is efficiently utilizing big data to detect offenses. In Japan, too, the Whistleblower Protection Act was revised in June 2020 to require by law the establishment of an effective system to respond to whistleblowing from within a business entity. Meanwhile, as this revision only took place a short time ago, we are still looking carefully of how it affects detection of new cases. Also, we are paying much attention to how the U.S. is utilizing data technology to detect cases and gather evidence. This workshop is a valuable opportunity for all of us to hear from both U.S. and the Japanese experts about these practices, and I'm sure that the discussion held during the roundtable sessions today will be very informative, inspiring, and beneficial. The issues chosen for today's workshop are all timely, and I'm confident that having experts from the US and Japan present their insights based on their respective corporate and social cultures, not necessarily political culture, but will lead meaningful insights for everyone here today. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Matano-san. So providing a very good summary of the update of this station in Japan and introducing some very important cases happening in Japan. Very, very informative. Okay, so let's have a short break and we will start the session 1 at 9:45. Thank you.